Hey everyone, and welcome back. We are in our wireframes resource. Before we begin, I want to talk about the assets panel and how to use some of the things that we have here. Now, if I just click onto the canvas like I'm doing right now, and I look to the right, I can see all my text styles for things like buttons, body copy, body bold copy, body regular copy, and headings. I can see things like color styles. And then I can even go into my assets panel and see all the different types of components that are available to me. I have inputs, I have icons, tons of icons. I have content blocks, so I can drag a card like this, zoom in, and I can start messing around with it. Now, before I get into just how to use that, I want to just run through this really quickly. So these are all our typography styles that we're going to just use for wireframes. We're keeping it really simple. You don't need to modify these, but they're over here. I'm going to teach you how to use these later, but I'm going to teach you how to create your own typography and color styles, but this is something that we don't really need to get into at the moment. We have our color styles here. We have our icons, which are all individual components that you can easily swap out. So if I use one of these icons and I drag it out here, I can go ahead and, find a new one that I can replace it with up here in the instance panel. So let me just delete that. Also, if I go over here, I can see all the different components. I have things like buttons. We have icon specific buttons. We have different elements, and these are all variants, and everyone should understand what variants are by now, but these are all variants. So if I use say this tag button and I drag it out, I can choose the type of variant, whether it's outlined or the light version. Then we have this other thing called component properties. These are these other types of properties on the component. Now, you don't really need to know how to create them, but I'm going to show you how to quickly use them. So as you can see, I have this tag selected, and if I don't want an icon with this tag, all I have to do is, use this Boolean property over here and just click that. That toggle will turn it off, and as you notice, the other component property went away. If I turn it back on, it appears, and now I can select the type of icon component that goes with it. So there's a lot of flexibility to all the things you can do. Think of component properties as things that you can easily turn off and shut off. Not things like, changing color or things like changing the size. Really, it is for turning on and off things. So here's an example. I have a bunch of component properties here, but here is the variant property. So I can turn it into a horizontal card. I can turn it into a vertical card. But then I can say that, hey, this card doesn't have an image, and this card doesn't have an icon, or just an image and no icon, and maybe it doesn't have a headline, and maybe it doesn't have a subheading, or content, or a button, or any buttons for that matter. So there's a lot of different things you can do with those properties just to turn things off that doesn't necessarily suit you. And if you can't find anything that works, just detach that instance by right-clicking and going over here. And then you can make that card whatever you want. So definitely a lot of flexibility here. You're going to have a lot of different types of components, different types of inputs, different types of placeholders that you can use. And over here to the right, you have some base components. And these components, if you want to make an edit to the style of the inputs here, you're going to make them on the base component. Basically, these components make up the majority of the components in here. So it's easy to, instead of changing all the different types of variants, all you have to do is change, say, one value. So an example is, if I come over here, I can change, say, this color to 700. And there you go. And it's changing over here, instead of having to change it twice there. So definitely don't delete these, but these are going to be where you're going to basically change the styling of some of these components if you really want to. I would definitely urge you to, keep things really simple. You don't need to, do that for all these different types of components. But like I said, you can just take these components use, like, if you have a label or content you want to write, you can write them right in the property here and say something like hello, and it's going to be reflected in the component. You can specify things like icon left and a type of icon and icon right and so on. And you can specify the variants as well. So these are the components we're going to use to build out our wireframes really, really quickly. This is going to really help speed up our workflow.